Hello, everybody, and welcome. I will wait for a few people to join. So as you join, please let me know which part of the world you're joining from. And whilst we're waiting for more people to come online, hello and welcome. Hi, Bummy, lovely to see you. Hello from Prague, lovely to see you as well. Right, I'll get going now that we've got some people online. So hello and welcome. Before I begin, for those of you that were on the live last week, which was about having difficult conversations, I couldn't remember the name of the author of the book that I was talking about, and the I'm Okay, You're Okay, and I didn't have it with me at the time. It was in another room. So this was the book that I was talking about last week it's Thomas Harris, not Michael Harris. I said Michael, it's Thomas Harris. That's the one that I was talking about last week. Hello, Letitia from North London. Good to have you here. Hello from New Jersey, USA. Lovely to have you as well. So hi and welcome. And we're live in Facebook, in the Facebook group, and also here on LinkedIn. And so what we're covering today is self-awareness. And before I begin, I just want to read you a quote from Dr. Tasha Eurich from the Harvard Business Review, what she wrote about self-awareness. And she said that research suggests that when we see ourselves clearly, we are more confident and more creative. We make sounder decisions, build stronger relationships, and communicate more effectively. We're less likely to lie, cheat, and steal. We are better workers who get more promotions, and we're more effective leaders with more satisfied employees and more profitable companies. So for those of you that don't know me, welcome to Self-Awareness, the Introverted Woman's Key to Leadership Success. And I'm Carol Stewart, author of Quietly Visible, Leading with Influence and Impact as an Introverted Woman. I'm known as the coach for high-achieving women and high-achieving introverted women, and I'm an executive and career coach. And I coach women who are senior leaders to be visible, to exude presence, to influence and make an impact. And if we're not connected, follow me here on LinkedIn or send a connection request. And if you're not in my High-Achieving Introverted Women Facebook group, do find me on Facebook and join. Or if you are a senior leader, then join my High-Achieving Introverted Senior Women LinkedIn group right here on LinkedIn. So what we're going to be looking at today is what self-awareness is, why it's important, and how you benefit from it. And I'll be sharing 3 tips that you can put in practice to help you to develop your self-awareness. So we've got some more people join. We've got Ben from Nigeria. Hi, Ben from Nigeria. Hi, Femi. Good to have you here. So, but what does self-awareness mean to you? And please type in the comments when you think of the word self-awareness. What does it mean to you? And I will read out some of the comments as they come through. So what does self-awareness mean to you, and why do you think it is important as well? And hopefully by the end of this session, this brief session, you'll have some ideas on what you can do to develop your self-awareness. And if you need further support, I'll let you know how you can get that from me. So what is self-awareness? Oh, I've got someone who said that they adore my accent. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So self-awareness, it's the ability to recognize and understand your emotions, your mood, and what drives you. And also understanding what impact these have on your performance and on other people. And I have a saying that goes, before you can lead others, you have to be able to lead yourself. And I see that self-awareness as being the key to effective leadership, because once you are self-aware, there's so much more that flows out of that. And I've got a comment here: seeing ourselves how we are and also how others perceive us. Ability to reflect your inside feelings. Yes. And that's what self-awareness is about. It's about knowing who you are and why you act and respond the way that you do to different situations, different environments. Letitia says, being aware of your competencies and behaviours. I'll put some of the comments on the screen so that you can see. And thank you for sharing those. But as someone who's introverted, having that self-awareness, I think, is very crucial, because you may find yourself in environments and situations that are not necessarily geared towards your preference, or do not enable you to be at your best all the time because of the overly stimulating environments that you may find yourself in whilst you're at work, whilst you're networking. And so having that self-awareness is important as well for understanding what impact certain environments and situations have on you and your energy as well. And by being aware of that, it's then easier to adapt your behavior or regulate your emotions so that you can get the best out of yourself and the best out of your situation. So for me, self-awareness is something that I've developed over the years. When I was a lot younger, I probably had a level of self-awareness, but not necessarily understand why certain people may affect me the way that they did, or certain situations. It's once I got a better understanding of myself and worked on my self-development, developing my self-awareness, I understood why, as someone who is introverted, the certain environments, the impact that they had on me, and what I could do so that I could manage my energy, manage my emotions, and be at my best. And so why is it important? And why do you think self-awareness is important? And please share in the comments why you think it's important as a leader to have a high level of self-awareness. And again, I'll read some of the comments out as they come through. And so the reason why it's important is because if you're able to manage your emotions, then you will have better outcomes. So you'll have heard me talk about this before. Those of you who've been on my lives, those of you who are my clients, those of you who attend my webinars and workshops and talks, you'll have heard me say how we're very much led by our emotions, and the way that we act according to how we're feeling. Well, many people do act according to how we're feeling. But not always. A lot of people don't have a level of self-awareness to see that they may be responding to their emotions. And as a result, they act from a place of an emotional place, which doesn't necessarily give them the best outcome. So self-awareness will enable you to manage that so that you get better outcomes. And I've got a couple of comments here. Yes, manage your emotions and reactions, like what I said. To know yourself and how to approach certain situations. Yes, and that is why it is important. So, which as a leader is key. And with an awareness of your emotions and what thoughts they evoke in you, you can better manage how you respond. And without this awareness, then you may, as I've said, act according to the emotion and respond in ways which are not necessarily the best outcome, will not necessarily give you the best outcome, and could end up being something that you later regret. And I'll give you an example with a client of mine, and I'll call her Jane for confidentiality's sake. And she could be quite hard on her team if they failed to live up to her expectations of them. And she was an outward she was an outward perfectionist. So she set very high standards of her team. She had perfectionist tendencies. And when people didn't match up to those perfectionist tendencies, then she would get quite stressed, and she could be quite hard on her team as a result. And because of this, she didn't have a good relationship with her team. She didn't have a rapport with them, and they didn't really engage with her. But she wasn't aware that it was because of how she was towards them. She just thought it was that they weren't living up to her expectations. But the coaching helped her to develop her self-awareness and to see that she was being hard on her team, and that she did have perfectionist tendencies. And as a result, her team couldn't live up to the perfectionist standards that she expected of them. And so by helping herself to develop her self-awareness, she was able to then work on how she could manage that perfectionism and to increase her tolerance levels, and get to a place where good was good enough from her team. And that helped to improve her interpersonal relationships. And so, as I've mentioned, that having that self-awareness, you will know, as someone who is introverted, those environments that drain your energy and those ones that you are at your optimal and you are at your best, and you can manage and adapt accordingly. Because as leaders, and all leaders need to be able to adapt, whether you're introverted, extroverted, ambivert, we all need to be able to adapt to different situations. And without that self-awareness, you'll not know when and how to adapt to get the outcome that you want, or to get the best outcomes. So how do you develop your self-awareness? So these are my 3 tips on what you can do to develop that self-awareness. So you can self-reflect with self-reflection. That's tip number 1. By regularly reflecting on why you behave the way that you do in different situations and different environments, it will enable you to increase that self-awareness. And it will also enable you to see how people respond to you the way that they do. So make time for self-reflection. And if you're in a situation and you think to yourself that, oh, I don't really like how that person responded to me, or how people are interacting with you, reflect on why that could be, and ask yourself, well, what's the reason why they could be acting in that way? And just examine your thoughts and your feelings about those environments and those situations that you're in, and that will enable you to increase your self-awareness. And a good way of self-reflection is through journaling. And again, those of you who know me know that I'm very keen on journaling, and it's something that I highly recommend for leaders. It's a great way of doing self-reflection, just by examining your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, and why you respond the way that you do, and to different situations and people, and exploring why people respond to you the way that they do. So that's tip number 1, self-reflection. Tip number 2 is mind and body observation, and become aware of your bodily sensations when you are in different situations. So when you notice different physiological tensions in your body, or your mind is cluttered, just pause and reflect on what is behind this. So look at how your body responds to stress, or when you're feeling anxious, what happens when you're happy or sad. And before you go into meetings or other situations, and just pause and take a moment to reflect on how you're feeling, particularly if you've had a busy morning, or you've got a heavy workload and you've got a lot going on. And then put your mind on who you're going to be meeting with. And this will help you to refocus and make sure that you don't carry the emotion from earlier encounters into the meeting with you. It'll help you to be more mindful as you go into those meetings or those situations. And the 3rd tip is about getting feedback. And some people don't like to get feedback because they don't like to necessarily hear what other people say, particularly if it is not positive. Oh, I've got a couple of comments here. Sonia says she loves journaling. Yes, I love journaling. And another person has said, journaling, great idea. Someone has said, I eat like crap and I stop exercising. So if you examine what is going on for you, why you behave in that way, that will help to increase your awareness about what is going on, and then look at managing your beliefs about what is going on for you. And so, as I said, for the third tip is about getting feedback. So regularly ask people for feedback, whether it's your team members, whether it's your peers, whether it's those who you report to, getting feedback on how they perceive you, what they think about the way that you do certain things, what they think that you could improve on, what they think that you could do well. And examine that feedback and whether you agree with it or not. And if you don't agree with the feedback, then ask yourself, what's the reason for that? What is the reason why they perceive you in that way? And then examine that. And when you're asking for feedback, and if the feedback isn't clear, ask the person for specific examples, unless it's being done anonymously. But ask for specific examples, because receiving feedback that isn't specific is not very helpful. And so get the feedback, examine it. How does what they say or their assessment of you match how you assess yourself? And a great way of looking at feedback, and it's something that I often do with clients, is they give a feedback questionnaire to people who they trust, who they know are going to be honest with them. And they give them a feedback questionnaire asking for feedback on different aspects of their work, how they are as a leader, how they deal with situations. And also I get them to fill out the questionnaire themselves. So they do a self-assessment of themselves. And then they look at what the feedback has been compared to how they've assessed. And then they look at where there's a difference, how and why that difference is. And often I find that when it comes to that feedback, oftentimes they have probably rated themselves lower than what their feedback has given them. But it helps you to see if something is amiss, either with how you perceive yourself or how others perceive you. So tip number 1 was about self-reflection, because self-reflection helps you to increase your self-awareness. Tip number 2 was mind and body observation. So looking at how you respond to your bodily responses are to different situations, and why that's happening as well. And the third one was about getting feedback. So we've looked at what self-awareness is, why it's important, and I've shared these 3 tips to help you to develop it. So what will you do differently to develop your self-awareness? Please let me know in the comments. Hi, Kay Venice, joining from Los Angeles. In the US, first-time listener. Happy Wednesday, she said, and happy Wednesday to you as well. Good to have you here. So I've got a comment that says, what if the feedback feels contrived? I really have to trust people to take feedback seriously and give it consideration. And that's why I say, ask people that you trust. So people who you know you can have an honest conversation with and that you trust. Ask them for the feedback. And that's why I say as well to ask them for specific examples, because if you ask somebody that you may not necessarily have a good relationship with, they may not give you favorable feedback, or they may just give you feedback that's very general, and that's not very helpful. But they've got a comment here from Julene. She says, she agrees, years ago it was called process recording. It is both surprising and healing. If those feeding back understand the process, feedback can be a very effective tool for both understanding our competencies and our impact on others. Self-reflection is key. Thank you for that, Julene. I totally agree. Sonia is saying, in terms of what she's going to do differently, is get more feedback as she does the first 2. And thank you for sharing that, Sonia. Anybody else going to share what they're going to do differently going forward? And as I said, self-awareness to me is the key to effective leadership, because if you have a high level of self-awareness, you will be a more effective leader. Your interpersonal relationships will be so much more better, and also in terms of how you manage yourself, because as I said, self-leadership is key. And before you can lead others, you have to be able to lead yourself. So we're coming to the end now. And if you feel that you need further support to develop your self-awareness, send me a message and we can arrange to have a call, and you can find out how I can help you. And next week's Lunch and Learn, I'm going to cover self-promotion and how to do it confidently and comfortably, because this is something that I know a lot of introverted women find challenging, because introverts typically don't like to be in the spotlight. And so I'll be sharing some tips on how you can do it more authentically and feel more confident about it. And if you want to, if you're not connected, as I said, connect with me here on LinkedIn, join my Facebook or LinkedIn groups. And if you want to increase your confidence, influence, and impact, then go to my website, aboundingsolutions.com. I have a free assessment on there that will help you to identify areas that you can focus on, and what you can do to develop in those areas. So I've got a comment here from Letitia. I'll put it on so everybody can see. She's given some advice. Keep notes of feedback you've received from various people. And so if one person is contrived, you will have a more rounded idea of how others perceive you. You can also tell them about their contradicting feedback. And thank you for sharing that, Letitia. That's a great piece of advice. So before I go, does anyone have any questions? Please type in the comments if you've got questions. No, it doesn't look like there's any questions. So I'll hang on another minute or so, but if there are no more questions, thank you very everybody for coming online. Have a great afternoon. Those of you in the UK, those of you who are in different time zones, have a good morning, a good day, or a good evening, depending what part of the world that you are in. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye. So Letitia said that she's going to ask for feedback and keep notes of what is said, so she has a record to refer and reflect on. Great. Comment here. Thank you, Miss Stewart. You're welcome. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you, Jolene. I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.